Ghosted my wife after she cheated on me. Years later she's tracking me down and wants to reconcile. In February 2018, I, 30 male, discovered my 30F wife's affair after we had been married for 3.5 years. I had a contract job that involved a lot of travel at times, but also allowed me to work from home when I was back. My wife had a very well-paying job as a director of a technical sales firm. We had what I would describe as a really good marriage, although things had gotten a bit strained from my being away on work trips and her working longer and longer hours. Backstory: I met my wife, now ex, 5 years ago, at a mutual friend's barbecue. We struck up a conversion and had an instant chemistry, and quite honestly, I thought I was beating the odds being with such a beautiful and well-spoken woman. Somehow, she really liked me for my rough around the edges persona. Once we dating after a few weeks, we couldn't get enough of each other, and the clothes just flew off when we would meet at each other's apartments. We finally tied the knot after dating for 18 months, and moved into a big apartment, while saving for a house. After the first 3 years of marriage, things started changing. I still was crazy about her, but I noticed she would start arguments about little things, and she would get angry when I would bring up all the late hours and the work outings that had been more and more frequent. She would say it's part of paying the dues since she had been climbing the corporate ladder, or at least that was her excuse. She told me I had no right to question her, since I was gone for weeks at a time myself. I had told her I could certainly manage reducing my travel hours, and had actually only been going on trips maybe 3 to 4 days, every 5 weeks or so. These arguments were very circular, and never had a resolution. As I look back, I had no idea my wife was in the midst of an affair. I would have never suspected a thing, except for her continued late work hours and our dwindling sex life. I just attributed this to her being tired from work. However, my ego had taken a beating from being turned down frequently when trying to initiate sex. I didn't see the secretive texting that I read about, but then again, she had a company cell phone and she could have been using it, since she spent a lot of time in our spare bedroom that she would use as a home office. It was around September of 2017 when Kathy started coming home after work, and then head off to a work engagement for the evening. This went from 1 evening a week to more than 3 evenings a week. I'm not that jealous by nature, but there is no way she would go unnoticed, and I know she would have to fend off some of the men at her office. She only seemed to be interested in work, but she was working with more male executives than female. My first suspicion of her cheating occurred a month before D-Day. She had stopped off at the store before coming home. She asked me to help with the groceries. While I was grabbing a couple bags from the back seat of her car, I noticed something pink glinting from just underneath the front passenger's seat. It was one of my wife's bras. I recognize it as hers, since she liked the ones from a particular apparel store. In retrospect, I now realize the reason for the red flag with the bra. When she gets in the mood, she always takes off her bra first, from underneath her clothes. I don't know exactly why, but I instantly just had a sinking feeling in my gut when I saw this. I could not rationalize what her bra was doing under the seat. I just left it there under the seat. It almost made me sick, and my heart must have been racing like crazy, because when I returned to the kitchen with the bags, Kathy asked if I was okay, and that I looked like I had seen a ghost. I just brushed her comment off. I tried my best not to look angry or betrayed, but it took all I had to hide my feelings. That evening and the next, I decided to see if I could find out if she was involved with someone or not. I started thinking about all the clues I was missing. I had no proof except for the bra incident. We live in a fairly large city and her work is in a downtown office building. I kind of took my focus off of the affair idea for a bit and decided maybe I should give her more attention. One Friday after work, I made a nice dinner, set up the dining table with nice plates, silverware, and candles. I bought a nice bottle of wine, and a bouquet of roses. She came breezing in after work as usual. I pointed out the dinner and everything I had prepared. She gave me a sad smile and told me she was sorry, but she had plans to meet up with her coworkers tonight at a local hangout. She said she could grab a quick bite with me before she left, but had to jump in the shower first. I think my insides flipped on me and I became completely speechless. I won't tell you what kind of rage I was feeling at that point, but I had finally had enough. While she was in the shower, I grabbed my company cell phone and planted it in her back seat. I had been thinking of this lately as a way I could track her location with my personal phone. I went in and dumped the meal in the trash along with the flowers. She came back after her shower dressed up and looking great as usual. She said, "Okay, let's eat." I told her never mind, go out with your friends. She looked at me strangely and asked if I was mad. I said I'm disappointed by you never wanting to do anything together. She became angry and told me to quit acting like a child and that something snarky about having a short fuse. I stood there, letting all this sink in and said, "Foolish me, I thought you'd like to spend the evening together, for once." She just smirked at me and left in a huff. I took out my other phone and started tracking my work phone. I saw her stop about 20 minutes away at the bar that she frequents with her work buddies. I decided to head out and locate her car. Sure enough, there it was in the parking lot of the bar. I sat across the street in my car waiting to see see if I could see her. I felt so unlike myself, like a stalker, but I rationalized I needed to at least satisfy my anxiety about her whereabouts. About an hour after I arrive, I see her coming out of the bar with a man. He looks like one of the execs I've seen from her work. He grabs her and pulls her close and kisses her. My stomach went into knots. My body went completely numb. They head over to another car and get in together. I do my best to follow them as the car pulls out. They travel about 10 minutes away to, you guessed it, a hotel. I pull over on the street next to the hotel. I watch as they get out and head hand in hand into the hotel. I've seen enough. I'm an idiot. I start banging my fist on the steering wheel. That's it. Something inside me went completely blank, and I'm not sure if I blacked out or had an out-of-body experience. When I recovered myself, I decided I needed a drink. Now, this is when my life took a new direction that I would have never guessed. I just started driving out of town, just reliving everything I had just witnessed, and I hate to say, crying with rage. I headed towards the outskirts of town, about 30 miles. I find a nice little bar and pull in. I find a seat at the bar and order a drink. I must have looked like death warmed over, because the bartender, female, mentioned that I looked like someone took the wind out of my sails. I half smiled and said you could say that. A guy takes a stool next to me and starts up a conversation. I'm not in much of a mood to talk, but something about this guy just made me feel comfortable. We start talking, and after a while, the subject of my wife cheating just tumbles out of my mind. How I just want to leave her and forget her. He looks at me and slaps me on the back. He says, "Buddy, you are not alone there. Happened to me a few years ago." I believe that sometimes, these things happen for a reason. And let me tell you, your life can now change either for the better, or the worse. It's entirely up to you at this point. Something about him saying this really shook me out of my glum mood. I mean, I know I'm hurting, but I have always been able to see things logically, and he is so right. Now we introduce each other. His name is Ray. He is kind of a country guy, but is just the sort of salt of the earth type that I really respect. He asks me when I'm going to move out. I guess it never occurred to me to even think that far ahead. I know I don't want to be around this woman anymore, and I do have this fight or flight feeling coursing through me. Ray says, "I feel very sympathetic to your situation, and have an idea. If it comes to it, and you feel like you need to leave at some point, I've got a travel trailer sitting on my property. It's not great and it could use a bit of fixing up. Why don't you come out and check it out and see if you could see yourself living in something like that, temporarily at least. I'll make you a great deal on it. I even have a nice piece of property that you could park it on. You would be doing me a favor to keep an eye on it for me. It might do you some good to get away from your situation." Just a thought. It took me a minute to register his idea. The bartender had been overhearing the conversation and smiles. "Hell, honey," she says, "if I could have escaped my crazy ex-husband years ago, I would have jumped at the chance to go live in his trailer. Anything to just get my head on straight. I feel like I have stumbled into the twilight zone, but maybe this is exactly what I need." I tell Ray, "Yes, I'll think about it and maybe check it out." We part ways after a bit, and make plans to meet out at his place in a few days. I started to feel like I have a little bit of perspective and a chance for getting out of what I believe is a nightmare, mixed in with a heavy heartache. One thing is for certain, there is no way I'll ever want to be with my wife again. Cheating is such a vile thing to me and has always been the one thing that I believe I would never tolerate. I got home after Kathy that night and sat on the couch. Kathy came out and asked me where I'd been. I turned to her and asked her where she had been. She says, "You know, I went to grab drinks." I asked her point blank, "Are you having an affair?" She looks a little startled but regains her composure and says, "No, why would you ask me that?" I tell her I heard she may be involved with someone from work. She asks, "Who told you that?" I tell her someone that I know but would not divulge the name. She just tells me you are being ridiculous, and that I'm drunk and delusional, and asks me where I have been. I tell her out to a bar, to have some drinks with friends. She just stares at me, wanting to ask me more, but just heads back to our bedroom and goes back to bed. I decided to sleep on the couch, since I now have confirmation that she has been lying for months to me. I didn't sleep at all, and start picturing her with this guy in bed, and I'm disgusted and hurt and feeling sorry for myself. However, I start thinking about Ray's trailer. It is almost a revelation, and the idea of it just made me feel better. I must have something wrong with me, but with the pain I was in, the fight or flight mode just instinctively kicked in, and the flight part won me over. The next morning, we don't speak much and go about the weekend as if nothing had happened. A few days later, I made plans to meet up with Ray. I met up at Ray's place. He owns a nice ranch and the trailer is actually really nice, about 26, and has all the necessities one needs to live in it. I had traveled with some friends in one back in college, during a spring break, and really enjoyed it. I make Ray an offer on it, and he agrees to the price. I practically steal it from him. He gives me directions to his ranch property and I drive over to check it out. It is beautiful, full of trees, scrub brush, and it looks like there are nearby hiking and biking trails bordering it. It's near the foothills of some mountains, and Ray has a small shack on a hill overlooking the property, with water and electricity for the trailer available. Ray will pull the travel trailer to the site and set it up for me. I tried to get Kathy to come clean during the next few weeks, and all I get is gaslighting. I even point blank tell her that if I find out she is cheating, there is no going back. This has the opposite effect of driving her deeper into her affair fog, and blistering me in denials. The denial is so bad, it almost made me laugh. I have no physical proof of her cheating, and kick myself for not at least taking some photos of the two of them. As I go through this mental agony, I come to the conclusion that I want out of this marriage. Rather than let Kathy know how I feel about things now, I just start making plans. I started stealthily taking my belongings out of the apartment while she was at work, and moving them over to the trailer. This at least makes me feel like I'm taking action. I did notice a change in Kathy during this time, and has been acting nicely around me. But in my mind, too little, too late. As she continued her little company outings after work, I decided I too needed a break. In fact, as she was heading out for the evening, I also got dressed around the same time. She looked at me and asked where I was going. I just said I was meeting up with some friends. She started to ask, and I just told her she didn't know them and she wouldn't enjoy all the shop talk. This is exactly what she would tell me when I would ask if I could join her at one of her office outings. She kind of had a hurt look on her face and says, "Okay, have a nice time." I said I definitely would. Between working on the trailer and meeting up with Ray at the bar, I have started to make more friends. In fact, it has led to some fun times with a great group of Ray's friends and family. And in case anyone asks, I decided I would moderate my drinking, so I don't develop any bad habits. It would be so easy to drown myself in pity. About this time frame, Kathy tells me she has to go on a trip for work the following week. I ask her who is all going and she tells me the executive team and some department heads. I just look at her and tell her I hope she has a really great time with her boyfriend. I kind of wish I hadn't said that. It started a lot of arguing back and forth. In a lot of ways, I wish I knew more about her AP, but as Ray put it to me, in the long run, it doesn't matter who the other guy is. It only matters that she decided to step out on you. She burned down the marriage. She can own it, or deny it, but facts are facts, brother. Damn, Ray should write this stuff down and publish it for the betrayed. Her work trip provided me with the opportunity to move the rest of my stuff out completely. So after Kathy left for her trip, I gathered everything I had left of any value, and put it in my vehicle. I'm not taking any furniture or the like, so it's just clothes, and work computers and equipment. Before I left, I had written a note that I was going to leave for her, but after rereading it, I decided I would just make it simple. I grabbed a piece of paper, and wrote I hope it was worth it. I placed my wedding ring on top of the note sitting on the kitchen table. I felt a huge weight come off of me. I felt free, no more hiding the truth. I know I will have some baggage to deal with, and some hurt to get over, but I have time to heal now. I just need some space, and need to get her out of my life, as quietly and quickly as possible. I'm not proud that I never confronted her more or pulled a confession out of her. I never got to yell and scream and curse her after confessing. I had come to the conclusion in my mind that she didn't deserve me. She disrespected everything we had. Our future plans are history. We were saving for a house, and a future family. All of that is gone now. No going back. I don't owe her a damn thing. She can deal with the fallout. Aftermath. I didn't have an agenda at all. I didn't contact a lawyer or anything. I just wanted to get some clarity. I really enjoyed my new trailer, and the mountainous air was exactly what I needed. In the following week, I took up running again, and it felt great to be alive. I never answered any of Kathy's texts while she was away. There wasn't much to respond to. They were just highlights, like, "We just landed, we are having a team dinner," etc. She did send a few, "Where are yous?" and "Let me hear from you," etc. The day she returned home, my phone blew up. She texted me incessantly, and tried calling me constantly. After the first day, her mother tried calling me. There's only my dad left on my family side, and we aren't close, so she didn't try to get him involved. After the first few crying messages, I never bothered to listen to the rest of her voicemails. Her texts consisted of, "What is this? We need to talk. I don't know what you think you know, but there is nothing going on. I'm not involved with anyone. I'm not having an affair." After a week of not responding, she finally leaves me a text saying, "I'm sorry, things got out of hand. I was involved with someone at work, but it meant nothing. I got caught up in my work and you were gone a lot, and I just made a mistake. I was going to end it. Ha ha, a mistake?" This was the confession I had been seeking all along. For some reason, it just made me dislike her even more. Why couldn't she be honest? This wasn't the woman I had dreamed of building a future together. And mistakes don't last for what, 6 to 8 months or a year? At one point her pleading for me to come back and work on the marriage became pathetic. She quit bothering me for a couple weeks. I still refused to answer her. I did not want her to pry anything out of me where I was living. I did not want this woman ruining my sanctuary. Then one day, she started sending me angry texts like, "You are a coward. You won't talk to me. You don't care about us. Please come home so we can talk. Where are you? I can come to you. Damn it, Paul. Please, let's talk and fix things." I don't remember all the messages, but they all seemed to be excuses and very little in the way of apologies. I let it all go in one ear and out the other. I finally changed my cell phone number. Update, June 2018. Kathy sent me an email telling me she had retained a lawyer and was filing for divorce. I sent her a reply that said, "Okay, sounds good." This resulted in a flurry of emails demanding I come see her, and so forth. She realized this wouldn't get her anywhere, and after a while, She just wrote that if I agreed to an uncontested divorce, she wouldn't bother me anymore. I agreed, and several months later, finally, I was truly a free man. I never had to see her after I left our apartment. No closure for either of us, but it seemed like that was more important to her than to me. For a few months, I did think of her sometimes, and yes, the pain would appear out of nowhere, like if I heard a song come on the radio that we used to listen to, etc., but eventually, I just stopped thinking about her. Update 2. Well, I am officially divorced. Things are really good now. As a matter of fact, I met a great girl. I was out on a run on the trail just down the hill from where I live. I helped her change a flat tire and we really hit it off. She is amazing, and cute as hell, though a few years younger than me. She loves my lifestyle, and calls me her mountain man. I'm in no hurry to get serious, but I'm not about to give up on women completely. I'm still up here in the trailer. I have no plans to change anytime soon, and I've simplified my life quite a bit. I love the outdoors. It helped me get over my ex-wife, the heartache, everything. I know everyone handles these things differently. I was lucky to not have children yet, and was only into my 3rd year of marriage, so I think I did what was right for me. You don't have to live your life with a cheater. If something like this happens to you, please, just don't dwell on it. Just move on with your life. It gets better after you work on yourself. I wish everyone the best life they can have.
Story 2.
Wife betrayed me, so I played games with her, drove her insane and ruined her life. So I found out about my wife's ongoing affair and she had no clue about it. First thing I did was to create a plan that would destroy her. Confronting her and divorcing her was way too simple. I needed to ruin her like she ruined me. My first step was gathering evidence of the affair, and I did this by using the app that allowed me to spy on her texts. I spied on her texts pretty much every night, screenshotted every conversation between her and her affair partner. They were talking like they were in a full-blown relationship. Romantic stuff, provocative pictures, the whole bag. Around this time, I moved on to the making her life a disaster phase of my plan. I started acting extremely cold towards her, and this made her paranoid. She'd ask me if I was doing okay all the time, but I'd brush her off. She'd try talk to me and get me to open up, but I avoided her. I could tell this took a huge toll on her mentally, but I was only getting started. I also began doing things out of the ordinary. I start going out at odd times and coming home extra late from work in her presence. I was on my phone a lot more than usual, and when she asked, "What are you up to?" I simply said just stuff and put my phone away. I also changed my login info on everything so she couldn't access any of my stuff. Around this time I clued my best friend Dave in on my plan, as well as telling my older sister and 2 more of my closest friends, Joe and Brittany. What was going on? Make note of Brittany. She comes into play down the road. About 1 month of acting cold towards my wife is all it took for her to completely lose her marbles. She started texting and calling me a lot more frequently now, asking me if I'm going to be home, asking when am I coming home, trying to initiate things in the bedroom, asking if I'm okay daily. I can see the seed planted in her head. The month prior is starting to sprout, especially in her communication with her affair partner. Let's call him Dave. She's confiding in him her doubt and confusion. And I'm seeing this once again. Thanks to the app, she's telling him that I'm getting cold and distant. In the interim of these interactions with Nick, she suggests that maybe they should stop meeting up at our house because she has no idea if I just show up. Dave asks her in that specific communication if she worried about me potentially cheating on her, which actually ticked her off. I can't even begin to describe the level of joy and how many laughs I got out of reading that exchange. My cheating wife arguing with her affair partner over if she's mad her husband could be cheating on her. Oh, the irony. Now, bear in mind, I'm not hooking up with anyone. When I leave, I'm usually at Dave playing video games. Well, fast forward now, another 4 months. 4 long months of keeping my mouth shut, gathering evidence and driving my wife mad by acting cold and distant. She had started nearly slipping into psychosis and I was relishing in it. I've been in my faux affair for 5 months now, and it's been 5 months since I even touched her. No hugs, no kisses, no initiation of intimacy. Not like she needed it, though. She was still sleeping with Nick just at his place or at motels. And then on one random day, it all just hit the fan. She called me at work, begging me to come straight home because she had something important to tell me. I actually believed she was going to come clean about her infidelity, but she, of course, didn't. Instead, I got home to her, asking me if I was unhappy with her. She cites the fact that I've been spending way too much time away from home. I don't show her affection anymore, and our bedroom life has completely died. She tells me she's worried I'm pushing her away. And then came the punchline. She asked if I was cheating on her. I can't even lie. I fell on the floor, laughing hysterically. And when I say hysterically, I mean Joker laughing, gas hysterical. On the surface, it looked like it was me laughing off the notion of being unfaithful. But it was, of course, actually me laughing at the sheer irony of what was happening in front of my eyes. I'm tearing up, pounding on the floor in complete hysterics for a good 2 minutes before I compose myself enough to answer. I sit up and look her in the eyes for the first time in months, shaking my head, but I don't give her an answer. I stand up, brush myself off, kiss the top of her head, and go about settling in for the night. I could hear the start to cry as I walked off, but I didn't care. Later that night, as I'm in my office, I decide, you know what? Given the brevity of what happened, I wanted to see what she was telling him. So I fire up the app and sure enough, they're actually texting in real time. She tells Nick, I know he's cheating on me. I asked him tonight and he literally laughed in my face. He fell on the floor and laughed for like 5 minutes. He doesn't even care how I feel anymore. I don't know how or why, but he's gone. I know I've lost him. This is karma. I know it. The smile I had on my face reading that must have resembled the Cheshire cat she was breaking. Dave attempted to console her, saying that if I cared enough for her, she wouldn't have had to come to him to give her what I wasn't giving her. But the tone of her responses told me she was having doubts about him now. During all of this, I was also exacting yet another part of my plan for payback. This part involved getting all of my affairs in order financially. You see, not too long ago I had met with a family attorney to get the ball rolling on divorce paper with the mountain of evidence I'd piled up to that point. The overwhelming amount of proof I gathered displaying Sue's infidelity pretty much solidified that I could nail her to the wall in a divorce case. My lawyer instructed me to get all of my financials in order in preparation for whatever division of assets might come as a result. I went one better than that, though, secretly pulling all of my money out of our joint account and putting it in my personal account. I also started shopping around for an apartment as part of this phase. So about a month goes by after the incident of me dropping to the floor and laughing, and I've yet to change my behavior towards my wife. In fact, I've ramped it up. And if she wasn't psychotic, yes, she sure is. Now, this is the time is where my friend Brittany comes into play. For context, Nina and my wife have never been what you call close. I met Brittany freshman year of high school 2 years before I met my wife. Even way back then, my wife has seen Brittany as a threat, as she's my closest female friend. There's always been an implied, I don't trust her from my wife, regarding Brittany. Anyway, one night, Brittany, Dave, Joe, and I gathered at Joe's house for dinner and drinks while Nina, being the evil mastermind she is, comes up with an evil idea to trigger my wife. She suggested we take some photos in the same vein of the photos I discovered of my wife and Nick months prior and post them to my Facebook. And that's just what we did. It wasn't until 2 days later that Sue got wind of it. As I'm guessing a few friends noticed my updates and saw how uncomfortably close I was with Brittany. This really messed our mind up because she still believed I was cheating. That same night she tried to scold me for being so handsy in the pictures. I saw this as a golden opportunity to deliver the lead jab for my knockout blow. I said, so what about the pics with you and Nick from last year? He was pretty handsome in them. But did you see me get bent out of shape over it? She looked like a deer in headlights. It was the first time I even mentioned the dude's name. Throughout all of this, the hamster wheel in her head started rolling in real time as she tried to explain away those pics and explain away. She did. He's that way with everyone. He's just a really friendly guy. I can see how it looks, but there's nothing there. I'm sorry if those pics hurt you. I'll delete them. No. The pics aren't what hurt me. The year you've been sleeping with the dude whilst lying to me that you're working extra hours and hanging with friends is what hurt me. But vengeance is a dish best served cold. From that night, my wife was being extra special, clingy, and attentive to me. She tried to initiate affection and intimacy with me, and I'd stonewall her at every chance. All the while, I'm still archiving everything she's saying to Nick. Mind you, by this point, I had long since gone numb. Any desire I might have had to save my marriage was dead. I checked out the day I enacted the first phase of my plan. She's confiding in him that I've gotten worse, that she doesn't know what to do, and she feels like I absolutely hate her. I do. Then comes the bombshell. She says she can't see him anymore. The guilt is too much for her, and she feels like karma is suffocating her. She can't risk losing me. She says that she loves Nick deeply, but she is still in love with me and she has to save her marriage before she loses me. No, my dear, you're many months too late for that. Nick loses it saying such lovely things as he doesn't love you the way I love you. And you're making a mistake. You can't just throw me away like this. That text chain would be the last they'd have for a while. Throughout the remainder of November, into December, my wife is stuck in limbo. She's trying to gauge where my headspace is and is still unable to tell if I'm actually being unfaithful. Meanwhile, Nick is steadily blowing her phone up daily, but she's not responding to him. I'd see her check her phone often, then quickly put it away. Meanwhile, the financial phase of the plan was now officially complete. The divorce papers were done. I'd found a studio apartment near me and signed a 2-year lease on it. All of my money was in my personal account. So we're now at Thanksgiving. 8 months after this all started, I decided I was ready to throw my haymaker. My 22-year-old son and his girlfriend were hosting a small gathering of our immediate families. So them, the girlfriend's parents, myself, my wife, and our 17-year-old son all present, as I had to keep up appearances of nothing being wrong between my wife and I. I initiated affection with her several times that evening. Kisses on the cheek, cute little hugs, wrapping my arms around her shoulders from behind. My oldest girlfriend and her parents would set off alarms, so my youngest decides he wants to stay over with his big bro for the night. So my wife and I head home. On the drive home, she thanked me for being so good to her and says, "I don't know what you're going through, baby, but I'm here for you." I had to hold off busting out in maniacal laughter again and responded, saying, "I know, I just need time." So for the first time, realistically, since last year, we had sex that night. I figured, screw it with what I'm about to do. May as well get some action before I delete her from my existence. After we were done, I just got up, shower, ate and went to sleep in my office. To her confusion, though, I used a rubber first time to damn decades I did. She was definitely perplexed by it, but she didn't ask questions. I woke up the next day and checked my handy dandy spy app, and for the first time in weeks she responded to Nick. Dude went full novella. He professed his love for her, said she was wasting her time trying to rekindle a flame in me that died, that she'd been in a prison with me for 28 years and deserved to experience the love and affection of a man who would cherish her. Mind you, this dude is 27 years old, 5 years older than our oldest son. She responded, saying pretty much the same thing she said when last they talked, that she loves him and enjoyed their time together. But she can't lose me. I'm still the love of her life, but she'll always have a place for him in her heart, that they can still be friends if he chooses. But the physical relationship between them is over. He begged her to see him one last time that week. And yeah, you guessed it, she said yes. One more for the road, right? Who am I to say anything? That's what I did to her the previous night. Of course, I added all of that to the archive I'd compiled. December 4th is when the final phase of Operation Shinobi Ghost started. The divorce papers were in hand. My new place of residence was set up. Now I had to slowly start moving my stuff out of the house. But first I had to break the news to my boys. I called my oldest to the house that Friday night, had them join me in my office and laid everything on that table. Not the specifics, but that their mother had been cheating on me for a while and I was going to be filing for divorce soon. My 17-year-old was especially shaken up by this because he himself had recently experienced his first taste of infidelity. Yup, his first girlfriend had cheated on him just 4 months prior. Seeing his heart broken a second time at the idea that his own mother was capable of doing this hit him hard. My oldest took it a lot better and suggested taking his brother in to live with him until this blows over. To which I agreed. We packed up some of his stuff and he asked me if I was going to be okay. I told him, yes, son, I'm going to be alright. And so are you. We're going to be alright, I promise. And then they were off. The hardest part was now over. And it was now time to arm the nukes. Over the next few weeks, day by day, my best friend Dave would help me get a little of my most sensitive stuff out of the house. I gave him a list of all of the definite stuff to grab while my wife and I were at work and left him the spare key. This was all stuff my wife wouldn't notice was missing unless you told her it was gone. I'd also gotten a new phone and phone number and told everyone who needed to know. Dave, Joe, Brittany, my boys, Big Sis and my mother. My new contact info. Meanwhile, I'm keeping up the ruse with my wife, and she's none the wiser. Trickling bits and pieces of affection to her just to keep her off of the trail while she's still in contact with Nick. Not to the extent that they've been prior, but there's still an emotional thing happening. The fog is faint, but it's still there. All the while, I gather everything, and I do mean everything. Every bit of data I've archived since I started the plan. Call logs, texts, pics, emails, everything, and start making printouts. And I cataloged everything in order from the beginning of the affair until that last bit, 2 weeks ago. I then put each of the 14 binders detailing her infidelity individually in a box and gift wrapped each, addressing them to various people. My mother, her parents, her 2 sisters, her brother, her HR department. Did I forget to mention Nick works for the same company? And there's an expressed rule against intercompany relationships because of the nature of what she does. Several of her friends, Nick and Nick's parents, I logged all of those to the post office and shipped them all out. December 16th, estimated for delivery. December 22nd, 24th. Perfect. So we're now at Christmas Eve. Sue comes home around the usual time. No idea if she'd seen Nick. I'd stopped tracking her on the app on the 18th. Figured I'd gotten all the mileage I needed from it. As per usual, she showers, hangs out with me a bit, tries to show me love and affection, and I reciprocate, wanting to make the final blow as painful as possible. It was all upon me at long last. The nuke I'd been arming for the majority of this year was finally about to be launched in the middle of the night. I woke up and wrapped up one of the 3 remaining binders with the divorce papers taped to the inside cover and set it on my side of the bed with a note that said Merry Christmas on it. Next to it, I left my old phone and the business card of my lawyer. I packed up the remainder of my most needed items, enough to fill 2 backpacks, and I left the home that I spent 23 years in for the last time. That, my friends, was 1 week ago. To my wife, I am completely off the grid. She's blocked on Facebook but still hasn't blocked me for some reason. So I'm keeping tabs on the fallout. It's absolutely glorious. My packages have reached everyone I sent them out to, and my soon-to-be ex-wife is getting crucified. Her youngest sister completely dressed her down. Both of her parents have condemned her. My mom absolutely destroyed her. She's been frantically trying to find out if anyone knows where I am. But those that do aren't saying a word all over her feed. She's desperately trying to reach me because I'm guessing she knows I'm likely looking. But I'm not saying a word to her without my lawyer present. That'll be the next time I share oxygen with her. She's got no way of spinning the narrative to paint me as the bad guy because I've exposed her to everyone who matters to her. And from what a mutual friend who works in the same company as her. She and Nick apparently are being put on administrative leave as of tomorrow. So chances are she'll be going into 2021 unemployed. As for the final 2 binders, well, one has been turned over to my lawyer as my final bit of evidence for my impending divorce, and the last one I put in my storage unit to be burned in Joey's fire pit when the divorce is final. Update: I have spent the last 2 weeks watching my soon-to-be ex-wife completely lose it on social media. And this past Wednesday, I met her face to face for the first time since ghosting her in my lawyer's office. She and her lawyer were present. She looked like crap, barely holding it together. Her lawyer actually presented an offer for terms of reconciliation, but I shot them down almost as soon as she finished listing the details of the request. Long story short, we agreed to a legal separation leading to an uncontested divorce. The only revision is that I will pay her $653 a month of temporary spousal support to cover the cost of utilities until she's gainfully employed again. Yep, she got fired up to a year after the finalization. So after the meeting, my lawyer gave me some final words before telling me he'll be in touch to update me on the progress of the filing. Back out on the street, my soon-to-be ex-wife chases me down and asks, "Can we talk?" I figured I'd give her at least that she held it together fairly well in the meeting, but outside let the waterworks flow, saying how sorry she was and how she never meant it to go as far as it did. She says she never expected to fall in love with Nick, but knew when she thought I was cheating how wrong it was to betray her own husband in such a way. She asked if I could ever find it in my heart to forgive me, and that maybe in a few years we could try to start over. That she can't imagine what her life is going to be without me. I tell her to start imagining it soon, because this will be the last time I ever speak to or see her. I've told her that our 17-year-old is almost a man and old enough to make his own choices as to his own future. I say that I gave her half of my life and every ounce of love I had unconditionally, and she, in her own words, fell in love with another man, that there is absolutely no chance of me ever forgiving her, that all of the love I had for her was slowly killed. All of those months that she confided and professed her love to Dave, rather than coming to me and telling me she had any form of issue with how things were going with us. I told her I loved who she once was, but I hate who stands before me, and that if I never see her again, it'll be too soon. I finished by telling her I didn't regret the 28 years I spent being her husband. I regretted that in 28 years she decided the easy way out was the better option, and that for 23 years I thought she was mine. But it turned out it was just my turn. Later that night, her father called me and apologized. He praised me for always being a good man to his daughter and tells me he's ashamed of her and that he raised her better than what she did. After that call, I went on FB and symbolically changed my relationship status to divorced. Life is very strange as of now, but at least me and Brittany are sleeping together, so that's a positive.
Story 3.
I've fallen in love with the husband of the women my husband is cheating on me with. I'm F36, and my husband is M38. We have been together for 10 years. We have one daughter who's F6. She's everything to me. I found out a year ago that my husband is sleeping with his employee, F30. How? Her husband, let's call him J, M35, contacted me. He was heartbroken and he thought that I ought to know. He provided me with text messages and dated when they've been in hotels. I recognized my husband's style and I recognized the other woman. I have seen her on multiple occasions when I visited my husband at work. She'd been nothing but kind and pleasant towards me, and she always doted on my daughter. I asked Jay what he wanted to do and he said that he wasn't sure yet, so I requested that we should meet. He agreed. I told him about my life and that I'm currently not working. After the pandemic I lost my job, and now the economy I haven't really had any opportunity to find a job. Instead, I've been studying these past 2 years. If I divorce now, I won't be able to provide for my daughter. That would probably put her in my husband's custody as a primary provider. I asked him if he could wait for a few months, hopefully longer therefore, and to my surprise he agreed. I thanked him profusely, but he told me that he didn't know what to do either, so he's happy to wait. Also, the other woman has 3 children from a previous relationship, and he was worried that she would refuse him being in their lives once he confronted her because he's not the father. We kept in touch however. He called me a few times a week and soon we started to talk about other things other than our failed marriages. Afterwards we started going for walks, coffee, movies, etc. I found myself thinking about him often with a smile on my face. He was the first thing I thought of in the morning and the last thing I thought of before going to bed. For the last 3 to 4 months we probably mentioned our spouses 1 or twice. We talk about everything else. And he always makes me laugh. He thinks I'm funny too. 2 weeks ago, we were having a picnic and he just blurted out, "I think that I'm in love with you." When he then explained himself, it just drove the point home that I also am in love with him. He said that at first, he wasn't sure why he was feeling like this towards me and explained it away as 2 jilted people finding comfort in each other, but that he then realized that he wasn't broken anymore. That he even thinks of his wife's infidelity as a blessing because it leads him to me. That was exactly how I felt too. I didn't know what to say. I told him that I'm terrified that these are false feelings that would go away once we've freed ourselves from those who hurt us. He just beamed at me and said he was willing to take the risk just to find out. He kissed my hand because I thought we were still married, and if we did something, then how are we better than our so? I don't know what to do now. I find myself daydreaming about him. About introducing him to my daughter. Kiss him. Wake up next to him every morning. I still have 1 semester left and then I'm probably going to find a job. I've already had some offers for when I'm finished with my studies. I have thanked Jay so many times for being so patient with me about everything. I appreciate that he's waiting for me to put my life in order before we expose our spouses who aren't really seeing each other as often as they used to. He told me he's happy to help and he just wants a real kiss as a thank you when everything is over. My goal now is to secure my job and leave this marriage. Am I pathetic for wanting to give Jay and I a shot and see where it would go? Can two broken hearts really find happiness together when their love story starts like ours? Update. Jay and I have decided not to see each other anymore. Hi again. This is not an update, since nothing new has happened in my life. But I've been feeling so down lately and my emotions are all over the place. Hopefully this post will help me sort out my feelings. I'm sorry if you find it confusing, but this is how I'm feeling right now. Confusion. Also, I'm sorry, but it's going to be a long and bumpy ride like my last one. I'm still busy with my studies, especially now so close to the holidays. Thereafter I'm going to have a break until January 16th and the start of my last semester. I have got 2 job offers. One with an unpaid internship starting in April. I like this job very much since I would be working from my laptop most of the days. The other one is more of an office job but with better pay. I don't know how the custody arrangement is going to be, but I feel like a job with more flexible hours is a better fit for me. The reason why I'm writing now is that Jay and I met yesterday. If you remember my last, we decided not to see each other, at least not as often, since the I love you talk. We did good keeping that promise, but we still saw each other once since I wrote here and we continued texting and calling each other on a daily basis. Yesterday we met on Jay's initiative. When I got to the park, to our usual meeting spot, Jay was already there. He had flowers, coffee and cake. I love cake. And he told me that we're going to have a little celebration. He said that today was the day we first met a year ago. Yes, it was. I remember that day very well. It was raining then too, but it was much gloomier. I remembered how broken and desperate I was. The feeling that my world had ended. We talked a lot about the progress we made and how much stronger we both felt now. He told me he loved me and it was all I could do not to just F everything and jump into his arms. He is so lovely. When I got home my husband had already picked up our daughter and they were just joking around and having fun. I felt so much sadness and pure horror building up inside me. What am I doing? What are we doing? All of us? The guilt that washed over me seeing my daughter's happy face playing around with her food. I couldn't take it. My husband and the other woman haven't texted at all this month, and they haven't met either, or at least as far as Jay and I know. Of course, they work together, so we don't know if the affair has subsided or that they just have learned to be more cautious, but my husband has been more attentive at home. Warmer and more present. He says he loves me all the time and that he misses me. I haven't been intimate with him since I found out about the affair, and even the smallest touch from him irks me, and any beautiful word or compliment from him sets my teeth on edge. I just want to scream liar, and I feel like I'm cheating on Jay. Accepting my husband's affection and the disdain for myself becomes unbearable. Make this make sense, please. I looked at my husband and tried to remember what I loved about him, but I couldn't. All I could see was his text to her, about how great the last time was and what he wanted to do to her next. All the things he once said he wanted to do and did to me that made me feel so special. I tried to think harder about love, but all I saw was Jay's face. I felt immense rage and hatred towards my husband, but also towards myself and Jay. My husband because he broke us and brought this mess upon us, and myself because I felt that I wasn't trying hard enough with my heart occupied with someone else. Have I just given up so easily because I love Jay? And my daughter? She is the one who's going to pay the hard price of seeing her home break because daddy is a selfish, greedy cheater and mommy isn't trying hard enough to save her marriage when she is pining for another man. I couldn't control my feelings of anger and resentment and guilt, so I wrote Jay a long text telling him all this and more. He tried to call me, but I couldn't answer him. My heart was swollen in my throat. I told my husband that I wanted to sleep in my daughter's room tonight, something I've been doing a lot since this all started. I cried all night watching her beautiful face so peaceful and happy. This morning Jay called me again and we talked for over an hour. He was very subdued and I heard the fear in his voice. He told me that he respected my wishes in taking a break from each other, but also to remember that even when I was at my weakest, I still knew exactly what I wanted and that I chose to stay to secure a future for myself and my daughter. You're too close now to your goal just to stumble and fall. He said he loved me and that he never felt like this before, and that he will wait. I cried for a good hour afterwards, already missing his voice. I know that my marriage is unsalvageable and that I'm doing the right thing, leaving it, even with the nagging feeling of guilt that's simmering beneath the surface, boiling over every now and then, waking me up at night. But I need to do this alone now. I want to look back with no regrets. The guilt will probably never go away entirely, but at least it won't have Jay's face now he's not in the picture anymore. So that's what's been up with my life. I told you that it wasn't an update really, and I'm sorry that it is long and confusing, but that's all I have right now. Edit. I'm not staying in my marriage. Update. Jay has now left his wife. A short update. Hi everyone. I know. I had a dramatic episode last time I was here and swore not to update again, but I'm a woman, I can change my mind if I want to. Last time I was overwhelmed by the number of comments and messages about me being a bad mother and I just couldn't take it, so I freaked out on you, but today I have a little update. It's not about me. It's about Jay. Jay's mom is sick. She lives in another city about 7 to 8 hours drive away. Jay went to visit her and he texted me before going. He apologized for texting me because we weren't supposed to keep in touch anymore, but he wanted me to know he was out of town. I drove over there on Thursday because it sounded like it was serious. I arrived at the hospital around noon. He looked miserable. His mother isn't even old, she is 58. My heart is breaking. I could only stay for an hour before heading back home. I feel so guilty leaving him alone. His sisters live across the world and they won't be able to fly home before Christmas. On Friday, Jay came home and broke off his marriage. I don't know all the details, but he didn't mention to her that he knew about her infidelity. Just that he wasn't happy anymore and didn't want to be married to her. He texted me and thanked me for visiting him and his mother and told me about him filing for a divorce from his wife. He is moving back to his hometown to be with his mother. He left yesterday, but he will be back once more to get the rest of his stuff. Even though I understand him and even if I wasn't seeing him anymore, the city feels empty and gloomy without him. Update. I have told my husband that I know about his affair and that I've been working towards leaving him for the past year. Hi again. I'm sorry I deleted my account. I'm very new to this and I just couldn't handle the criticism I was getting, so I deleted my account. I have understood now that the internet doesn't owe me politeness and people will say their opinion because I put myself out there, and that makes it, I guess, okay for people to say hurtful things because I chose to share my story. I have learned that I could deactivate all private communication, so if you have something nasty to say, be brave and put it in the comments instead. Although I'm hoping for less negative comments this time since people were mainly angry that I was taking my time to leave my husband. I'm still going strong with my studies, and as I said, I have secured a job in April with a decent salary that will increase by 30% once I graduate 2 months later. I have also signed a lease on an apartment that is a few blocks away from my daughter's school. You can't imagine the happiness I was in when I found the apartment, but most importantly that they accepted my bad credit, having not had income for over 2 years now. My new job contract and reference was enough, and I have to pay for 3 months ahead. I get the keys on April 1st too. I still need to talk to a lawyer. I just don't want to throw away my money before it is getting closer and I need the help. I have found a non-profit org for women that I could call and ask for information and advice. I'm not really in an abusive marriage, but they have experience of all sorts of marital and divorce problems. As I stated, since I found out that my husband was cheating on me, our sex life died. In the beginning my husband didn't seem bothered about it, certainly because he had someone else, someone new, but with time, it has been over a year now, and God, it has been the longest and yet shortest year of my life. With time he started to show me affection again, trying to get intimate with me. I avoided him like the plague. He never pressured me, but he was getting upset and I felt him getting frustrated. I think his affair had died out by then, or maybe it wasn't as fun and exciting for them? I don't know, I'm not an expert on affairs. For over 2 months now he has been trying to open the subject of our non-existent sex life, but I just told him that I didn't have a drive, or that I was busy, this being my last year of my studies. I have been able to keep him at bay, and while my explanations and excuses weren't making him happy, they were good enough to keep him away. That is until about a week ago when he wanted to discuss this seriously. I told him again that I was busy and that my sex drive is very low. It is, he said that it wasn't just the sex. We had no intimacy, he barely is allowed to be near me, I never talk to him anymore, like I don't make an effort anymore. I asked him if we could just wait until after the holidays because I'm too busy, and I didn't want to ruin it for our daughter who loves Christmas. He then said something that triggered every nerve on my body. Something like it was not healthy for a marriage when one partner neglects the other because then you start looking somewhere else. I just said that it wasn't true because he started sleeping with her name way before I started neglecting him. He was in total shock. First, he tried to know more, maybe he misheard me, then he started to deny it, then made excuses, then started apologizing, then he started asking for details, and what my plans were. When I told him about me getting a job and an apartment, he started pleading and trying to hold me. Now this past week, he's tried to talk to me every day and I have been calm with him. He had so many questions. Why didn't I tell him before? At least he could have explained. She meant nothing to him. The relationship ended. He had no feelings for her. It was just physical. He loved me and nobody else. Think about our daughter. He regretted what he did and that's why he ended it. Why was I not more upset? I told him that I had mourned us for a year and that I'm over it now. He still thought this was unfair because this is all new to him. I told him about my job, my new place, and I asked him to be patient with me and to think about our daughter and put her first in whatever is coming. He was so angry by that and told me that if I thought about our daughter for a second, I would have confronted him there and then. Be honest. We could have tried to fix it with therapy and some effort because he never loved anyone like he does me and he would drop everything else to try and make it right with me. But I chose secrecy, plotting and planning my life without him while pretending everything was fine. Did I think? I started crying and begged him that however angry he is with me, not to take it out in a way that affects our daughter. I told him that I did all of this for her. I didn't want her to see us fight. I didn't want to leave without having the means to offer her a good life. Now he is so angry with me all the time. He barely looks my way. He is still sweet with our daughter though, and that is comforting. I sleep in my daughter's room most nights. I never meant for it to blow up this soon, but you can spend your whole time planning and preparing the perfect exit, but life has never been predictable. I don't regret my outburst. Maybe it was time anyway. I will continue communicating with him about the importance of staying civil to each other. He is angry now and he feels cheated and deceived, and I get all that, but I need him to put aside the hurt and think of our daughter, just like I did. And just like I did, he will get over the pain in time. Edit. Jay is in the process of divorce too. He has moved back to his hometown because his mother is very ill. I'm afraid his sisters live in Australia, but they have both come home, so it feels good that he and his mother are not alone. I have visited them 3 times since I heard the sad news, but he lives far away, so I haven't been able to stay for long periods to support them. We talk over the phone every morning though. He is devastated. Edit. No, I haven't told my husband about Jay, nor am I gonna. If by any chance Jay and I end up together, then everyone will know, including my husband, but we are not willing to tell my husband or anybody about how Jay and I met. We decided that long ago when we were dreaming about our future together that we wouldn't tell our exes how we met. It is for the best for anyone involved. I'm keeping this promise. It is nobody's business but ours. We don't know what the future holds. Jay lives in another town, 8 hours drive away. We haven't talked about us in ages. We have a lot going on in our lives separately. All I care about now is his mom doing better, or at least not suffering. Update. I have had the hardest year yet of my life, even if not everything has been negative. I have a great job now with a great company and great and supportive coworkers. I'm so thankful for that. I live now in my own apartment. That's where the greatness ends. Because it doesn't matter how long you have known a person, how much you have trusted and loved them, or how much you thought they loved and valued you. You don't really know them before you hit rock bottom with them. And my ex-husband, still legally married because he is still refusing to sign any papers, has shown nothing but cruelty and vindictiveness towards me and at times our daughter, making me question why I have chosen to rock the boat. I thought I was doing all of this for my baby. I wanted to give her a dignified life and a strong role model in me. A happy and content mother to be her hero, and yet she's the one who suffered the most during this time. When I told my husband about my plans to leave him, he was in denial at first, which was bad, but it was nothing compared to when he realized I was telling the truth. He used every means possible to break me and dissuade me from leaving. He started with threats about taking full custody, then he took all my assets from me. He got primary custody of our daughter and refused me to see her while court made the assessment that I was fit to have shared custody because he filed a motion that I was broke and suffered from mental illnesses. I'm being treated for depression and PTSD. I couldn't see my daughter for 8 weeks because of bureaucracy, and I thought I was going mad because of that, even contemplating just getting back together with him to get my daughter back. When I finally saw her, I was awarded shared custody. She was so angry and broken, telling me how much she hated me and how she wanted to be with daddy. He told me that my daughter hates me because I'm a bad mother, while I knew he was poisoning her mind. Even when we had shared custody and she started to warm up to me again, she still had hard time loving me the first day after she'd been with her father, until I win her back and she is almost her normal happy self at the end of the week before she is going back to his place, and the vicious cycle begins. He tried everything too not to divide our assets according to the prenup, but that wasn't any priority of mine. Even if I had to start from scratch, I was willing to give him anything not to make him angrier with me that he takes it out on our baby. Once he came with a suggestion that I left him everything and gave away all my rights, and he gave me full custody. I thought something finally heard my prayers before he changed his mind and filed a new motion suing for full custody. He was playing with me. During this whole ordeal, I was feeling doubts and resentment towards myself for not just complying and obeying him and staying with him until our daughter is older. The self-doubt and fear were almost paralyzing, and one day in the beginning of summer I wrote a very long letter to him reminding him of his love for his daughter and the promise he made to her when she was born to do anything to protect her. I reminded him that I am just a woman and he can, and had, replaced me anytime, but that his daughter is his daughter. I begged him not to use her to hurt someone who is replaceable. Don't use a valuable treasure as a weapon to destroy a cheap target. A target you easily replaced once before. He didn't answer me, but he stopped texting and calling me for other purposes other than our daughter. She has been happier too, and she says she loves me and she loves daddy. I don't know if it was my letter, but he just stopped all his attempts to hurt me. Once when he dropped her off, he apologized for everything he did back to cheating on me in the first place and said that he loved us and promised not to hurt us anymore. He has since kept this promise. He has during all this time, since January, while I still lived with him, been having an on again off again girlfriend, 25F, who went on I get to see my daughter more because I get her even on his weeks. I find myself hoping for them to get back together so I can have my daughter with me in a stable home. I don't know what the future holds, and I hope my daughter forgives us for what we have put her through. Most of the time I regret asking for divorce when she is so little and wish that I have waited at least until she is old enough to understand, but sometimes it feels like it was the right decision anyway. Of course I will never know. As for John, he still lives in his hometown near his mother. She is very sick and no chemo nor procedure works now. I have visited them as much as I have been able to. He has been a great support throughout this ordeal, which always made me feel guilty given what he is going through, but he always said he is happy to listen and wants to know. We call and text each other every day. Last month, when my husband had my daughter on a trip with his family, John showed up at my door. He said he just wanted to see me and he had booked a hotel room that he ended up not using. He spent the weekend with me in my apartment, and it was the first time I've allowed myself to be with him. He was everything I imagined and more. He said he loved me and it was all I could do not to start bawling pathetically. I didn't know it was possible to love someone this much. John's divorce is finalized, but we have decided not to make our relationship public until my life is in order. We have waited for 2 years. What are a few more months? I'm so much happier now. And I am hopeful for the future. Not just for me but for everyone. I hope we can all move on and be happy.
Story 4.
Came home early and overheard my girlfriend bragging about cheating on me, so I left without saying a word. Now she's desperately trying to find me, but I blocked her everywhere. I 38M just found out my girlfriend 36F of 5 years cheated on me. And I found out in the worst way. Just some background info on me. I've never been married, nor do I have any kids. It's not that I don't want either, life just hasn't had those plans for me yet I guess. Anyway, to the story. Friday after work, I left to go on a weekend trip with the guys to one of my buddy's cabins on the lake. Nothing too crazy. Fishing, drinking, games. Just good old fun. Usually, we do these trips about every 3 months to get time to ourselves and give ourselves a break from us. I usually stay through the entire weekend and just leave from there go to work on Monday morning. However, this weekend I left my laptop in the office room and forgot to grab it. So around 4 p.m., I started to head home. Figured I'd be there by 6 and let's call her Rachel wouldn't have ate by then. So I called in an order at our favorite Italian place, stopped and picked it up and headed to the house. I walked in and everything seemed normal. I could hear Rachel laughing in the kitchen, so I figured I'd just walk in and surprise her. As I got closer, I started to overhear the conversation she was having on the phone. And in an instant, my life was shattered. I assumed she was talking to her sister or maybe one of her friends. But the conversation basically went like this. Last night was just amazing. He was such a considerate lover. Pause. I'm telling you, I've never had anything like it. Pause. We met on Tinder and he took me out last night. By the time we made it through the door, we barely made it to the sofa. Pause. Oh God, big. Like twice as big as, inserts my name. Pause. I'll definitely be taking him for a test drive again. After that line I just dropped the food on the floor. Rachel heard it and turned around. By that time I already had tears welling up in my eyes. She hung up the phone and tried to get to me but I just pushed her off, went up to the office, grabbed my laptop and left. Rachel has been hysterically texting and calling the past 4 days and I haven't answered one. I'm staying at a motel a couple towns over, so I doubt she will be able to find me. My buddies and mom have called as Rachel has frantically been trying to locate me, but I've assured everyone I'm okay and there is nothing to worry about. My life has been ruined by a stupid phone call. I really thought this was the girl I was going to spend the rest of my life with. I'm an only child and my mom keeps reminding me she wants grandkids. I had planned on proposing this year on the 4th of July, as it would be our 6-year anniversary. I've already got the ring and my buddy and his wife already know about the plan, as they are the ones who set us up and hosted the 4th cookouts. Any advice from you on here would be appreciated. This is the first time I've dealt with infidelity in any relationship. I'm really just broken at the point. Do I contact Rachel? Should I hear her out? After that phone call, the thought of her just makes me sick to my stomach. Tia for anyone who reaches out. Comments, Traditional Band 723, she was bragging about cheating on you. You will never forget what you heard. Time to move on. Boston Dana 2, to add to this, she showed you who she is. Be glad you learned now and not after being married for many years. Bushy Boy 1973, you have already heard everything from her you need, don't look back. Best case scenario, arrange for your friends to collect your things and never speak to her again. The only closure to be had in this is from her side. Never give her a chance to apologize, don't talk to her friends or if your mutuals try to give you a message from her ghost them too. Make a post to social media explaining what happened, tag her. My name is not Chuck 509, yes, do this. Since you're a nice guy who probably can't imagine doing this to her, you will want to try and understand and fix things. You'll try to be a pick-me. Make it loud and public so you can't go back. You dodged a bullet. Trust me. I've found out this past year that half my life is a lie after 27 years together with 3 kids. And my WW cheated on me multiple times over those years. I had an opportunity to leave her the first year we dated when I found out she probably cheated on me. But I tried to understand and fix things. Don't be me. Update 1. Hello everyone. First off, I would like to thank everyone for their kind words. I have had a very stressful week and while I did not feel up to replying to anyone's posts, I want you all to know that I read them and your words helps me through the week. This has been a devastating event for me and each and every one of you that commented or reached out through chat brightened my day just a tiny bit. With that said, here is the most recent update. Last Friday night, after my buddies got to the hotel, I explained what I had heard on the phone call. All 3 of them were stunned to say the least. They asked if I had saw any signs of this, and TBH, I really hadn't. I said I didn't know what I was going to do. I informed my one buddy that the proposal was off, and given the circumstances, he completely understood. One thing I had my buddies do when they left their houses is turn off tracking, in case their significant others were checking and getting back to Rachel. I know Rachel isn't close with one of the wives, but at this point, I didn't want to take any chances. That night, we spent the night at the hotel bar and I tailspun pretty hard. Shot after shot after shot. It wasn't pretty. My buddies were getting calls all night from the SOs asking where they were, and to their credit, they stood their ground and backed me up, just saying that we were safe and not to worry. One asked to speak with me after assuming that where they were, but I didn't want to talk to her. She kept saying Rachel is worried and just wants me to come home. I just told my buddy to deal with it and I'll fill them in another time. I spent most of the night hitting on the bartender, which I'm not proud of, and a couple of girls who were traveling for work. The next day, I thanked them all for spending time with me and they took off back home. This week, I had one of my buddies scope out the house we were renting as it was on his way to work and he gets to work after Rachel and I would have already left for the day. Rachel had taken Monday and Tuesday off, but went back to work on Wednesday. As soon as he informed of this, I went to the house and started packing as much stuff as I could. The house was a mess. Dishes in the sink, clothes laying everywhere, trash was full of takeout and ordered food. It took me about 3.5 hours to get all my crap out. Before I left, I cleaned up for Rachel as a final gesture. That afternoon and evening, I got flooded by Rachel with calls and texts after she realized that I had came home and gotten all of my things. So, for now, I'm now staying at my mother's house until I can find a place of my own this fall. I spoke with the landlord, and without Rachel's signature, he won't remove me from the lease, meaning I will have to cover my half of it until October. My mom has said I can stay with her until then, at which point I will try to find a new place. I know, a 38-year-old moving back in with his mother. How amazing life has treated me. I finally contacted Rachel on Thursday, and told her we could meet up at a local bar and grill downtown Friday evening. I told her one of my buddies would be attending to make sure everything was on the up and up. She complained for a few minutes, saying she wanted me to come home and talk with her so we could move past this, but I told her if she wanted to see me, this was how it was going to be. Eventually, she agreed. So Friday night, Rachel shows up after my buddy and I had been there for about an hour. I had already ate and took a couple shots of Ciroc to calm me. We sat down and she wanted to make small talk, asking about me and blah blah blah. I cut that garbage off. I told her I had a list of questions. Immediately, her eyes welled up. I asked her how long has this been going on? She swore this was the first and only time. I told her to cut off the shit. I said there was no change we were ever getting back together, so just tell me the truth, so I can have my closure, and move on with my life. She stuck to her guns for a few minutes, but then, as most of you predicted, she came clean. Every time I went on those trips for the past 2 years, she thought I was going to cheat on her, so she was having her fun too. This set me off. I told her she was using this as a effing excuse just to sleep around. I then asked who she was talking on the phone with, but she refused to give me an answer for this. I asked if they used condoms, and she said sometimes. I said she's lucky I got an STD test, cause I'm clean, so she doesn't have to worry about getting one, unless her most recent horse didn't use one. Finally, before I left, I told her about my plans. July 4th proposal, I showed her the ring, and told her that I was going to propose at our friend's party, because that was where they introduced us. It was around here that she just started crying. She begged for another chance. I told her that I will always love her, but we are over. So yeah, she's been messaging me all day, but I'm going to block her here soon. So I'm just sitting here eating some B-dubs and drinking beer while watching the fights. Hopefully, Poirier wins, but I'm doubting it. All my life is a train wreck. Anyway, thanks guys for listening. I don't know if I'll update again, as I doubt I will ever talk to that see you next Tuesday again. Comments, see Falcon 6063, I knew she was going to say it was only once. They always do that, dummies. Also this line every time I went on those trips for the past 2 years, she thought I was going to cheat on her, so she was having her fun too. Blame shifting. Classic cheater move. It's your fault, up. I think not. I'm sorry your landlord didn't let you out of the lease. But at least you have your mom. It's not ideal but it's only temporary. 100% her loss. Too bad, she was about to become someone's wife. A good man chose her, wanted her and she threw it all away for fun. It's time to focus on you and your healing. Go easy on the alcohol. Be careful. You're going to be okay. Flygonusk, I'm glad that you are clean and sad that she was such a poss, and use as justification that she thought you were gonna cheat on her on those trips. Sad also that she didn't want to tell who she was talking to, but I bet it must be someone of the inner circle of friends and most possibly one of the wives of your buddies. And she didn't want to give her because that could cause trouble with the male friend for supporting a cheater and might as well she was doing that too. So warn your buddies of this possibilities. Now about her reaction and manner on the restaurant, she showed no remorse at all, and even tried trickle true. Because if she wear remorse for what she did she would broke before the ring thing. She come to senses of her stupidity when you showed her that ring and talked about the proposal. Well now it is time for you to leave alcohol and start your healing travel. Hope everything goes well, and please if you come to find who was in the other end of that call update us. Update 2. Hey there fellow Redditors. I just want to thank each of you for the kind words. It means a lot to me. A few things have happened the last day, so I figured I'd fill you in. Nothing too exciting, but nonetheless, here it is. Rachel is no longer invited to the 4th cookout. So I'm free and clear and don't need to worry about any confrontation with her. If you remember in my last post, while at the bar, one of the wives was trying to talk to me. She is the wife that hosts the 4th cookout. Apparently, Rachel had told her that she had only cheated once and it was a huge mistake, and that's why she was trying to get me to talk things out with her. When I spoke with her this past Tuesday, I let her know the whole truth. She immediately called Rachel, who confirmed my line of events, was livid and started yelling at her, and told her it would be best if she didn't show up to the event on the 4th, because I was going to be there, and frankly what she did to me was vile and disgusting. She then asked me to forgive her and said she had no idea. I explained it wasn't her fault and she had nothing to ask for forgiveness for. We were both sold a lie by someone we cared about. As for who was on the phone with her, I can only imagine it was her sister. The 2 wives who are friends with her have remained solid that they had no idea Rachel was doing this, as apparently on the Saturday evening while we were away, they would have a girls' night at my house until about 11 p.m. and talk about typical girl garbage and drink wine. The one who isn't even friends with her, but partook in these events, confirmed it. The other thing that makes me think it was her sister is I've attempted to reach out to her 3 times now, and I have gotten no text back, no call back, nothing. Her mother has called and said she's upset about the breakup and asked if there is anything they can do to change my mind, but I told her that's just not happening. I went back to work on Monday after taking the week off. So I'm back to my normal routine now. No more booze in the near future. My liver will thank me for that. This community has helped me a lot and I personally wanted to thank each and every one of you for all of it. I don't know if I'll update this account again as it seems this is the end of the situation. BTW, Rachel has been blocked all on platforms. So right now, she has no way to contact me. Cookout host said she isn't doing good right now, as she told me that before I explained what really happened, but as is life. I'm not doing good either, but I'm moving on and putting all this behind me. Thanks again community. Y'all rock.